And we're live, everyone. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Black Powder Podcast. My name is Michael White, also known as MW for Liberty. I'm joined, as always, on the Firearms Radio Network by my melanated brother-in-arms, Mr. Marcus Matthews, tonight going under the moniker the Libertarian Big Daddy Dolce. We were just arguing off air of how you say sweet in Spanish. He said it's dulce. Y'all type in the comment. Put something on. It's Dolce. But again, I'm an Arkansas man, so our Spanish is a totally different vibe of Spanish than what you got over there. So I might have to defer to you for that one. Again, guys, as always, we are proudly sponsored by the Firearms Radio Network. If you're tuning in on the Firearms Radio Network, be sure to share our content, send it around, like, share it, subscribe it, get us past the algorithms, all that kind of fun stuff. Our audience continues to grow, and we're really excited about that. As always, Marcus, we've been trying to have local libertarian candidates on this show, right?
Yes.
We're one of the few shows on FRN that kind of goes away from just guns and we go into libertarianism because we believe that the Libertarian Party is the only party that really, really, truly wishes to defend your Second Amendment rights, right?
Right.
And so,
not too far away from guns.
That's right. We're never too far away from here on the FRN. For those listening, Marcus just brandished a weapon on show again. It might scare you people, but it's totally cool. We have an awesome guest tonight. Okay, this is Eric Parker. Eric Parker is from Jacksonville. Jacksonville is trying to be like this cool new bold city in the South, apparently, and he's taken over the moniker Bold Liberty because he wants to show them what liberty can be like in Jacksonville. He ran for city council here very recently, secured 34% of the vote, killing it down there. Eric, welcome to the Black Powder Podcast.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. And that I'm going to correct yours, 34.5%.
34.5%. Hell yeah. Owned every one of them, man. There we go. Yeah.
Hell
yeah. So, Eric, tell us kind of how you seem like a cool, laid back dude. Okay. You seem like you probably got things going on in your life. Probably if I had to read you, just like we're playing a poker game, I would say this guy didn't dream of getting into politics. So is this something you came to organically? Did you just get fed up enough? Like, how did you tell us your journey into libertarianism and what made you run for office?
So I was a registered Republican up until 2020, and I had a part-time job working at a local craft brewery here in Jacksonville.
There we go.
Craft beer is kind of like my hobby.
Yeah.
Used to be, I drank a lot more craft beer than I do right now. But I was working there as a part-time job, a small family-owned establishment, and it was during the COVID lockdowns of 2020 that the Republican supermajority state legislature here in the state of Florida did nothing to keep breweries open. And the Republican free state of Florida Governor DeSantis locked down small breweries. And the small brewery that I was working at was nearly put out of business.
Hold on. Time out. I want you to hear that, people listening at home, because there's this perception that DeSantis was like this anti-COVID lockdown person. For those of us who don't live in Florida, if we turn on the talking picture box, that's the message it tells us, right? You're telling us that that's completely opposite of what really happened in real life?
I'm in real time. We shut down, I think it was like the day before St. Patrick's Day, right around that time, sometime in March.
Damn.
And the brewery was closed, had to be closed for over 90 days. They were 2 weeks away from closing their doors. They were forced by the state government to get a restaurant license and a hot dog roller to reopen as a restaurant just to be able to serve craft beer.
Oh, yeah. We remember the inside-outside thing that we all did.
Yeah.
This stupid shit that happened during COVID. I'm assuming that also came there is what you're telling us.
Yeah, it was here. And that's the thing is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, Florida stayed open the whole time. No, that's not true at all. And I want to say emergency orders stayed in place for over 300 days. You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people say, well, that was so that he could continue to get federal dollars. Yeah, that's part of the problem we're talking about.
Right.
We shouldn't be taking any more federal dollars, because whenever you tie yourself to federal dollars, you tie yourself to their rules and their regulations, and then you also devalue our currency at the same time by printing trillions of dollars out of thin air.
Well said.
So,
well said.
People
You're working here at the brewery. They're shutting you down. It's COVID. You're getting pissed. That's step one. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is what made me leave the Republican Party. I wasn't active in the Republican Party. I wasn't, I was a Ron Paul guy. I waved signs for Ron Paul in 2008, 2012. I was a Rand Paul guy. I'm not sure if I waved any signs for Rand Paul. Probably did one day or 1 or 2 days. And I bought a lot of merch because when Rand Paul was running, he had some pretty cool ideas for some T-shirts and stuff. And you know what I mean? Like, I was supportive vocally as a libertarian in the Republican Party.
Right.
And then, you know, but in 2020, I changed my voter registration from Republican to Libertarian. And then I just reached out to our local chair, D.L. Cummings. Some people might know him as Liberty Dad on Twitter. But he's the chair here of our Libertarian Party in Duval County. And I just started going to meetings. Wasn't thinking about running at the time. And then after breweries were allowed to reopen, our local Jacksonville City Council passed an ordinance fining small businesses $500 if they had 50 or more people on the property.
Holy shit.
Wow.
And our city council here in Jacksonville is a Republican supermajority.
Imagine
they
that.
could have voted that down, and it passed. It passed with, I want to say, 4 people out of the 19 seats of city council might have voted no. I don't have that exact count in front of me, but it was obviously a supermajority passed it. The irony of that is on that same meeting that they voted for that, by 1 vote did they vote against giving the owner of the Jacksonville Jaguars $300 million. Now, that Jacksonville Jaguar plan, a year later, they repackaged it, moved it down the street, and he still got $100 million from our Jacksonville City Council and taxpayer fund. Wow. So all of this going on is why, like, on my Twitter, at EricP904, you'll see a hashtag end corporate welfare. Because, as I'm saying, the reason why I decided to switch to the Libertarian Party and then eventually decided to run for office is because of how much they were willing to hurt small businesses while bailing out billionaires and large corporations. So,
you're saying there's basically no measurable difference between Republicans and Democrats when it comes to doing the federal government's bidding. Is that what you're telling us?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
I've never heard that before,
wow,
Marcus.
That's very profound. Yeah, I'm shocked.
I'm really shocked. Color me shocked.
We definitely have a uniparty. And that's the crazy thing is a lot of people are like, oh, well, get involved locally. I was like, and now I know this, but the local politics, all it is it's the breeding ground. It's the incubator for whoever the establishment wants to move up and give away more of our money. That's all it is.
I have observed that and told that to many people, just sitting in my race and seeing local state reps and contested districts run as kind of, again, incubated candidates from parties. You get the idea that, hey, you do this, you pay your dues here. We might put you, if you get in the legislature on like some sort of committee in the state, you do that pretty well. You might get to that inner circle around the governor. You have to be kind of nationally known to maybe be that governor candidate, pay your dues. If you do that really well, maybe then the RNC or the DNC is going to start picking you out of here and they're going to pick you for something else. And so it really is this kind of bottom up. I have to do the bidding of everyone to get there. So I think it sucks people in because someone might come to, for instance, win as a Republican or a Democrat for office as a bright-eyed, bushy-tailed idealist. They get in there at their first term and they go, hey, you got to vote with us on this. And they go, what the fuck do you mean? I got to vote with you on this. And they're like, no, we're shutting down the breweries. Like, how? What do you mean? If you don't do this, Eric, you're not going to be on that committee next year. And if you're on that committee, we're going to primary you out and you will never be here again. And you'll never have a future. Yeah.
Let me ask.
Sure.
Do libertarians need to follow that game plan?
No.
To elevate our candidates, and why not?
So, first off, I think all the libertarians need to do is get used to running candidates, and that's something like I'm trying to do now is get the Libertarian Party to like just build that infrastructure. I heard from so many libertarians or libertarian-leaning whoever MPAs, third party, Republicans, some Democrats just say, man, they were happy to see. Everywhere in Jacksonville had 2 libertarians on the ballot they could vote for because we have 5 at-large seats and then 14 districts. Then in District 8, which is the what was the term you said? We call them black.
The
black. Yes. We don't use the African-American term here on the Black Powder Podcast. No, Marcus does not like it. Yeah. He's already been accused as a racist, so he can't use black here. Yeah.
But Tracy is a black libertarian, Tracy Robinson. You might know him, might follow him on Twitter.
I follow him. Yeah, we follow him on the Black Powder Podcast. Yes.
Yep.
He was running in District 8 whenever it was kind of south of where it is now. Well, our local city council once again redistrict the districts, and it kicked him. It didn't kick him out of his district. It kicked his district out of the space he had been campaigning in for a year and a half, which was in the black neighborhoods of Jacksonville. And now I do think that's one benefit to my race and why I ended up winning the black vote in Jacksonville. It's because Tracy was putting in work for a year and a half, and they tried stealing that work from him. But I benefited, even though I didn't win. I think that's a pretty good showing, 34.5% for a first-time candidate, not a political guy. I didn't have any name recognition beforehand, but I definitely have a little bit of name recognition now here in local politics here in Jacksonville. And I think you saw that Libertarian lady comment earlier. Yeah, there are a group of Republicans that are here in Jacksonville.
I was going to ask you about this. There's a little bit of controversy that you stirred, right?
Yeah,
tell us about that. Yeah, tell us about it because you pissed some people off, right?
Oh, I pissed a lot of people off.
Yeah.
And I think it's because like I only raised right around a little less than $20,000, but I got 34.5% of the vote. I don't know what percentage that was the Republican vote, but I got public support by over 20 members of the REC, the Republican Executive Committee here in Duval County. So then the REC tried kicking those 20 people out of the REC. That put me on, I made it on 6 different voting guides, like Tea Party voting guide, Patriot voting guide, 2 different Christian voting guides. So the REC here got big mad about that, and they tried to kick a lot of them out. Some of them just said, if you're going to be like that, I resign, or they resigned, you know what I mean? But like, I didn't do that to intentionally divide the Republican Party. I just went out and spoke my message, and a lot of like grassroots, liberty-leaning, non-establishment Republicans liked my message than they did the establishment Republicans' message.
Absolutely. Yeah. And so, you didn't divide them. They divided themselves, right? I mean, because at some point in time, voters go, wait a second, you're not doing what you told me you were going to do, right? Like that's what I hear all the time from both Democrats and Republicans is they say, I didn't leave the party. They left me.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. And so they even put out kind of like a little hit piece on you, right? And said they kind of used all the libertarian tropes, the negative ones, and said you were like open borders and like, child prostitute importation and
decriminalize all drugs, which that one, eventually probably a little true, the decriminalize all drugs part.
Sure.
But let's just start with marijuana here in Jacksonville, right? Marijuana is still illegal here in Jacksonville.
Crazy.
Let's start with that one. But I can neither confirm nor deny that I've also heard in a meeting, he called us a party, the chair of the Duval Republican Party called us a party of polygamists. Now that one probably.
I honestly have a problem with that because a man should be able to take as many wives as he needs. Because you got the one that can cook, you the one that can clean. And, you need to separate the chores.
We are not advocating polygamy on the Black Powder Podcast. Do what you want to do, people. But I'm not. My wife is in the other room.
You are the P on your hat stands for polygamy.
Polygamist. Yes. 100%. Yes. Polygamy or death. Well, that's the way I go about it.
I am not a polygamist, so
Well, anyway, I knew when I saw that posted.
Individual choices.
Because I follow you, I follow Jax, I follow I follow all you guys that ran down there. Larry kind of had Larry Sharp also really kind of helped out with you guys a lot. He brought a lot of attention across the country, really, to y'all's races and kind of the Jacksonville group, really. And so when that piece came out, I was like, man, they're over the target. You don't get that kind of response from an established party in publication if you haven't been a threat, right?
That's right.
And so Libertarian Lady writes, and we welcome those 20 people to come talk with the Libertarian Party of Duval County. Hell yeah. Yeah.
And they know we're ready. And a lot of those people are still working with us. So I'll let you finish, Michael. Don't want to cut you off on that thought.
Well, you didn't cut me off, man. You're the guest here. I just, like I said, I was really proud to see that. And I'm proud anytime we see the duopoly have to spend money or time to acknowledge us because it means we're doing something right. Right?
Exactly.
They view it as a threat to their power structure because there's two, like I always say, there's 2 things you can get the duopoly to agree upon: war and keeping the system the same.
That's goddamn right. Yeah,
they don't want us disrupting that system.
So Eric, let me ask you for we have sometimes some politically savvy listeners who tune in, and they've come to learn the term ballot access from our podcast and from others. Something that a lot of people don't think about until they kind of get into office or want to get into office. What is ballot access like for you guys in the city of Jacksonville? Did you have to fight hard for it? Was it fairly easy for you guys? How did that work?
So we have it pretty easy here in Jacksonville and in the state of Florida. I'm sure if we continue to gain success, they'll try to change the law and make it harder. But so it depends on what you were running for in Jacksonville. Originally, I started running in District 2, and I got enough signatures. I think I needed somewhere around like 600, 800 signatures to get on the ballot. And I campaigned for over 2 years in that district race while keeping my eye on this at-large race, which is the one I ended up running in. Right. Now, I got enough signatures. I could have qualified for the district race, but my race in the at-large one seat was a Republican incumbent city council sitting president of city council, and he was going to run unopposed. So last minute, I went down to the supervisor election office. I intentionally put my qualifying date the day before the last day on a Thursday at like 3:30 p.m. They closed at 4, and then that left only 4 hours on the Friday after for other people
or somebody else too. Yeah.
Right? So I went in. I switched last minute, and I wrote a check, and I forget the amount. The state Libertarian Party waived their state fee. I don't know how y'all do it, but whenever you pay a qualifying fee, if it's a partisan race, a portion of that money in the state of Florida goes to your political party. So it's cheaper to run no party affiliated. Well, most people don't realize that your political party can waive that portion that goes to the state party. So our party did waive that, made it easier on the two at-large candidates, and made it a little bit cheaper. I don't know, say it went from $2,800 to $2,200. So somewhere around there was the qualifying fee to qualify. But I was able to raise that money from the like grassroots Republicans that just wanted their crappy Republican candidate challenged. So it didn't even come from like my prior libertarian supporters.
That's pretty awesome.
Let me ask both of you guys a question as you both ran for office. What is the libertarian position on charging fees to run for a government office?
Well,
Michael,
our position is that we charge them, but I mean, I don't think that I don't know if there's any there's umbrella policy on this. I think that the idealist libertarian would say that access to the political system should be free and equal and available, right?
Right.
Yeah.
The reality of it is that the Secretary of State in most states has guidelines and reasons that they have certain things the way they have to, and you kind of have to play in those lines. Also, parties have to be funded. I mean, they're going to have to be. So
yeah, I understand that, but why should I have to pay a fee to be a part of something that I am? We're Republican.
Well, you don't have to. Good parties will waive those for good candidites.
Okay.
Like if
it didn't waive the total amount. I still had to pay a little bit to the supervisor elections office.
Right.
But the way they get away with it is I was given the option to get signatures. Now, for the district race, it's doable. It goes off of 5% of the population of your district. Right. So in my district race, there's 60,000 people. Maybe it was 1%. I'm terrible at math, but I had to get like 600 signatures, and there's 60,000 people. What is that? 1%, 5%, whatever that is.
Yep.
So that's the signature way. Now, the reason why you have to pay and the price of that is different is it goes off of a percentage of the salary of the office. Now, that's where you ask, like, how is our ballot access? I think it's a good option to give an option to people to just pay if they want to. Meaning, I don't got it because there's no way I could have got the 9,000 because the city of Jacksonville is 600-something thousand registered voters. That would have been 1% of that. It was, I don't know.
They want 1.5% of the vote. Yeah.
I needed like 6,800 signatures. I wouldn't have been able to get that. The way the Libertarian Party is now, we don't have enough volunteers. Our infrastructure isn't in place. Like the Republicans could get 6,000 signatures in a month if they really just get their clubs to help gather signatures, go out to events, blah, blah, blah. Well, the Libertarian Party in Duval County's got around 3,000 registered libertarians out of 600 and something thousand registered voters and over 1 million people. You
So
know
it
what I mean?
sounds like so what you're saying is there at least is a pay-to-play system at place. Like
That's
if you can't,
that's where
if you cannot get the signatures according to the ballot access you have a way to enter just by paying. So in Arkansas, like for instance, the Libertarian Party of Arkansas, we sued the state last year and a half ago, because they changed our signature requirement as a new party. We constantly had to be a new party because they never qualifies as a party, and so they raised it from 10,000 signatures to a percentage of the governor vote, which like raised it to like 30,000, something like that, and then had like 90 days to get them. So we sued the state. We sued the state and federal court and said, y'all, this is unfucking constitutional. All right, like this is clearly a violation of the First Amendment. It's like you're doing everything you can to keep us off the ballot. The federal judge says, yeah, y'all got to get this squared away. Legislature kind of played lame duck on it. It's gone back to basically what it was before, which is 10,000. But realistically, we have to get about 13,000 signatures because, some are going to fall off. The Secretary of State's going to go, oh, I don't think Janet so-and-so lives at so-and-so. Right.
Yeah.
And so we don't really have a way to pay to play. We would love that. That'd be awesome. But we're back to doing the signature thing. But luckily for us, we've gotten our timeline extended. So if you're listening to this podcast, I'll be putting an announcement out here probably next week, first week of May, that if you live in Arkansas and you want to help me raise signatures for the LP of Arkansas, I'll be hitting you up. Hit me up. I'll get you some forms. I'll come pick them up, gather them up for you. If everybody got me 10 or 20, that'd be awesome. So that's my little shameless plug for the Libertarian Party of Arkansas talking about ballot access.
So is that a petition signatures, or is that for a particular candidate, or is that something you don't want to talk about?
That's to be established as a party. So in Arkansas, it's kind of weird. Okay, to be a new party, you have to petition the state with signatures. All right. Mm-hmm. Once you're a new party and you get that status, you can go ahead and nominate candidates by convention and have them put on the ballot.
Gotcha.
And the only way currently under Arkansas law that a party can secure ballot access for the next election cycle is they have to get 3% of the vote in a governor race. Okay.
Gotcha.
So not just any statewide race, not just any race, because we had multiple candidates who did like you. We had several candidates who were in the 30s, several in the 27s, especially in our two-way races. We had a state position that ran. Simeon Snow ran for state auditor. My cat's jumping on my table. You got to get down, dude. He got like 4.1%. So we've been trying to fight for like ballot retention reform, and they just weren't hearing it, man. I don't know if you know this. We have a new governor here in Arkansas. Her name is Sarah Huckabee Sanders. And everybody in the Good Old Boy Network wants to do what she wants to do, and that's all the legislature was focused on. So, we'd be up there like, hey, y'all want to talk about ballot retention? And they'd be like, no, piss off, dude. Yeah. We're dealing with bathrooms right now, man. We got bigger problems going on.
We have way bigger problems with that. 47th in education. We need to make sure nobody's learning.
Nobody in a skirt's going to the guy's bathroom. History. Can't do that. We got to make sure that happens. So that's kind of how that went. So Eric, being in Florida, you kind of, opened my eyes at least, because again, you don't know what you don't know. And the national perception, I think, was that Florida was like this island of freedom during COVID. And you've myth busted that to hell. You're like, dude, it was not like that.
That's
right?
over. That part is just destroyed.
We have like two kind of national narratives now with Florida coming back, right? So, DeSantis is in this constant discussion in the sphere of potential presidential candidates for 2024. What is Eric Parker's opinion? What do you think, man?
I think that politically he tried using reopening the state as a win. And I think I said that, I don't know if I said this before we went live, but technically the state of Georgia north of us opened before the state of Florida. Wow. Technically, what's her name up there in one of the Dakotas, they never shut down anything. So if you ask me, DeSantis isn't the best governor here in the state of Florida. And also, if we're asking, what do I think of him in a potential presidential run? How do I think he would do? Go look at his constitutional voting record whenever he was in Congress. It was only around 60, 70% constitutional. So he's no Thomas Massie. He's no Justin Amash. He's no Rand Paul. And I don't think, unless you get, in my opinion, a Rand Paul, Thomas Massie Republican ticket, you're still not going to get the Libertarian vote. And we all saw in 2020, the Libertarian vote could have, if they all voted one way or one way for Trump, could have been the difference. Right. And I'm telling you, political strategy, if I was Trump, I would have, before the election, pardoned Snowden, given clemency to Julian Assange, in either order of that, however that works out.
Sure.
If Trump would have done that before the election, he probably would have got the libertarian vote.
Right.
But the deep state probably kept him from doing that. I think he got my opinion on Trump. I know you didn't ask that, but
no, I think it goes hand in hand with the DeSantis question. I think that Trump and DeSantis are part of a conversation you can't peel apart yet. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And like DeSantis hasn't announced, but the Florida state legislature right now, we have a law in place where you have to resign to run for president, and our Florida state legislature is trying to pass a law to make it where I think it's specifically the governor race. It doesn't have to. Some people said it specifically calls out DeSantis, but I don't think it does. I haven't actually read the legislation.
Okay, well, it sounds like they're setting up an out there. Yeah.
Yeah, they're basically changing laws to fit their.
Let him get in, man. Yeah, dude. Yeah. Let our homeboy play ball. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Now with DeSantis, he reminds me of a further right Scott Walker. And a lot of people.
I don't know who Scott Walker is. Can you
I was
elaborate?
just about to say,
elucidate
who Scott Walker is, because he was a pretty far right governor of the state of Wisconsin. He was the one that was starting a lot of these. Well, it was a precursor to the culture wars that we're going through right now in individual states. And if you don't know who Scott Walker is, Google him. Because he was before.
Does he have any nudes online? Are they on there?
Who?
You just told me to Google him. Yeah.
Well,
no, there's none on there, man. Yeah.
He was poised to be the Republican presidential nominee in 2016 before people found him a bit too extreme.
Gotcha.
And what I don't think DeSantis understands is everything he's doing right now is going to be a campaign commercial. And what DeSantis is going to do, he's going to do the same thing Barack Obama did, was drive the youth to the voting booth. But I don't think he would like the outcome of that. And that's where these culture wars, I'm not a big DeSantis fan. I'm not a big Gavin Newsom fan, so don't freaking.
Well, here on the Black Powder Podcast, we use 2A issues as a litmus test, right?
Yeah.
So I judge a state's level of freedom by how free am I to pack a gun and go do whatever the fuck I want to do, wherever I want to do it, right? So in Arkansas, we already had essentially constitutional carry. We had a legislation that clarified it. You can carry a gun doing just about anything in this state. That's not a problem. In Florida, apparently you have to be fishing to like have a gun on you or something.
California too.
Isn't there some kind of loophole? I'm like, this isn't freedom. Like, I'm not going to, I got to, like, before I go outside with my gun on, I got to have a fishing pole too and walking down the street like a goon. Like, come on, man. So that's kind of, I wasn't ever really a fan to begin with.
That, though.
Yeah. Did they change it?
Florida.
Yeah, they just changed it. That's right. Yeah.
Now, they didn't change it good enough. I don't know. Not being from Florida.
Listen, people, go ahead.
The only thing, what they did was they used the term in the media and whatnot, constitutional carry. You'll see like an NRA map of the constitutional carry states. Well, Florida isn't constitutional open carry. You still can't open carry unless, like you said, you're hunting, fishing, hiking, on your way to and from both. You can't open carry. Yeah, exactly. We have permitless concealed carry. All that means is you don't have to pay for or purchase a concealed carry permit. Now, that is a step in a right direction. I don't know it's the right direction.
Clarify for me. So I come down there to Florida to hang out with you, and I travel with my firearms. I don't go anywhere without a firearm. And I come down there, and I'm like, Eric, we're going out. Yeah. How do I bring my gun? I have to keep it concealed.
Yeah, you have to keep it concealed. And I don't know about reciprocity laws now because of this change.
I'm from Arkansas. We don't got I don't need no permit from the state,
exactly. That's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure, I think you'll still be allowed to conceal carry here as long as you're not a felon. I'm pretty sure that's the way they're ruling it. I don't know, though. This is not legal advice.
Eric Parker, Bold Liberty, reserves the right to be wrong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But we're going to say he's right now.
Well, it's a very muddied issue because Texas was one of the first states that, well, not one of the first states, but a more recent state that had this so-called constitutional carry, and their arrests for carrying a firearm has skyrocketed.
Really?
over that time frame.
Imagine that, people.
Because there's so much gray area in this, and it's a muddled, vague law that all of these states are passing that still gives the government an out to fuck you over.
Right. Which is what happened.
There was some crazy loophole too. Like now, because of this law, you have to. Before, I guess you could get away with not showing an officer an ID if you're like a passenger in a car. You know what I mean? Like if you're not the driver, you didn't have to. Now I think this law, once again, don't quote me on this, but I think now there's some requirement where you have to show ID. Doesn't have to be a concealed carry permit, but you have to show ID. And I'm assuming this is so they know who you are, they can look you up, see if you're a felon, and then if they catch you concealed carrying, and obviously if you're a felon, you shouldn't have a firearm anyways, or according to. Anyways, get my point. But now the issue with that is, like, me personally, I've had a concealed carry permit here, and I will probably continue to get a concealed carry permit for reciprocity laws in states that require a concealed carry.
And you also do you get to bypass your 4473 at the FFL? Do you get to bypass a background check because you have a concealed carry license?
Is that the 3-day waiting period part of that?
Technically, it would be, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some states have waiting periods, some don't.
You get to do that as well. That's another benefit to having a concealed carry. And like I said, I don't know how that law changed in the state of Florida. Is that a federal thing? You guys are the gun guys.
So Arizona has the same thing. If
your waiting periods and your ability to bypass NICS is determined by the state, because the federal legislation gives jurisdiction to the states to declare that state police can go ahead and issue a waiver. And so they use that waiver process in the CCLs of most states. I mean, I would love to see it to where, again, a state like Florida or any state that would say we're now constitutional carry would go ahead and let the state police issue waivers to every driver's license holder. So when you showed up to your gun store and you said, hey, I'm here to buy a gun, they go, oh, yeah, you live in Arkansas. You are waived from having to do a background check. Here you go, sir. Thank you very much. Would you like some ammo with that? Right. That's what I would like to see personally. Bring that comment back up. Libertarian Lady brought up something, I think, one of my favorite groups to rag on. I think they blocked me on Twitter. The Moms Demand Action. And there is a group of bored housewives that call themselves Moms Demand Action. I'm sure they do. My mother always demanded action of me. She's always trying to get me to clean my room, do something I didn't want to do. They think crime will now get worse in Jacksonville. They would prefer your gun locked in a safe with your ammunition stored separately. I'm sure those busybody Karens would. Marcus, how good is a gun to you right now, locked in a safe with your ammo somewhere else?
Well, I always feel criminals will honor the timeout rule. So tell them, timeout. Let me go get something to defend myself. And most criminals now are millennials, so they grew up getting timeout. So they'll understand that concept.
Yeah. Simon says stop. Let me get my gun.
Yeah. Timeout. Yeah. Timeout.
I got to get to my safe space.
Your firearm. So
yeah.
I see their point.
I think it'll work, fellas. Let's give it a go.
I think we'll give it a go. I'm gonna write Mom's Demand Action and say, please unblock me from Twitter. I'm sorry for what I said. I will be a good boy now. We have decided that criminals will follow the timeout rule.
Timeout rule.
So kind of back to the DeSantis thing. And Marcus sort of touched on this a little bit in brevity. He talks about this guy in Minnesota kind of being a kind of a mirror of DeSantis in some ways, and kind of starting this.
Not Minnesota.
Wisconsin. They're the same damn place, man. They're up there and they're cold, man. For a Southern boy like me, that's the same place. Yeah. I mean, like if you got snow on the ground a lot of the time in the winter, that's a foreign country to me.
Exactly.
Yeah. So DeSantis has kind of been a leader in the culture wars, right? And he has been fighting a kind of a global culture war with a global company, because it's a company we all grew up with. We all know it's a household name. Most people listening to this, if you grew up in any country, you know some character or icon from the company. It's Disney. So kind of what is Floridians' opinion of what's going on? What's the average Floridian think? What does the libertarians think? Kind of let us know about that, man.
So I will say that I think what DeSantis is trying to do is appeal to his political base. And what I mean by that are the conservative, socially conservative Republicans that vote. Now, is he thinking voting in local elections because the demographic changes? state election. No, he's thinking of federal elections. But that's where I think he's missing the mark, because more people are going to show up and vote in the federal election than they did in the state election and then they did in my local election. We only had 25% turnout here in Jacksonville.
Right. Midterms were always lower turnout. Midterm times are, and off years are always lower.
I think, though, he is playing I don't think he hates Disney. He got married at Disney.
I did not know this.
Yeah.
So what he's doing is he's trying to appeal to his political base. Now, that is a smart strategy whenever you think of how well he did in the state election. Let's say that same amount of Republicans are probably going to show up and vote in the national election, but I think there's going to be a larger Democrat turnout in the presidential. Now, once again, Trump, I think, won Florida by, I don't know, 100,000, 300,000 votes. So it's probably not going to be enough for him to lose a lot of votes, if you will. But me personally, as a libertarian, if you want to go to Disney, go to Disney. If you don't want to go to Disney, don't. But my issue is what he was doing with these taking away, I guess, forcing the Reedy Creek thing in this lawsuit. I haven't been following it too close. But basically, in my opinion, Disney was a self-funded city, if you will. They weren't as dependent on taxpayer dollars as they're going to be if he strips them of these certain freedoms that they have. They're able to operate their own, I think, power plants, so they're not dependent on other power plants.
Wow. Yeah.
They're able.
No, that's true. I've looked into it. They do have their own power plant.
Yeah, and they're able to. They have their own police, their own emergency medical services. They have their own roads. Oh my gosh, libertarians! How are you going to build the
How
roads?
the hell? Wait, Eric, how did they get roads without taxes?
Turns out, if you sell a product that is popular, you can use that money however you want to include.
God. Are you hearing this, people? A product that's popular that people voluntarily want to buy. Yeah.
It was operating without too much government. Now, their ideology, or whatever you want to call that, is different than mine. Like, you know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm not a fan of Disney's culture war per se, but I'm also not a fan of restricting community's ability to self-govern.
Self-govern and self-organize. Yes.
Like DeSantis is actually accomplishing here is this limited government free state of Florida governor wants more government in Orlando, not less government. So
it's in fact, there's numerous examples in the past 2 or 3 years, especially because of COVID and everything, where you see Republican legislatures and Republican leaders who, again, bill themselves as a party of limited government, finding more ways to get involved in mine, everyone's life, right? It again, further, exposition of the fact that these are kind of both one party. They're just two flavors of the same thing. So, but yeah, I didn't know about the power plant thing, man. That's kind of cool. Like, I didn't realize Disney was they are kind of like their own libertarian little. They got their own little strange beliefs. You got to wear fursuits to be part of the cast. You can't, if you throw up in the helmet, you got to leave it on. It's like a rule, but this is their rule. And no one's forcing you to go to Disney. Last time I checked, right? And last time I checked, no one forced me to watch a movie. No one forced me to buy a T-shirt. No one forced me to do anything. So, you know what? I say live and let live, man. Disney can do whatever the hell they want to do. That's my opinion. So
what you're both saying,
yeah.
So what you're both saying is the Reedy Creek, whatever district, was the libertarian utopia.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
before
say,
it was dissolved.
I mean, my issue is not necessarily because I'm pretty sure they've received a certain amount of corporate welfare as well.
I'm sure they have.
Yes. Subsidies,
of course,
and tax breaks that they got that other people don't get. So I see where DeSantis is using that as they get special favors. It's yeah, but don't take away their self-governance and then tax everyone else in Orlando or
to keep giving them the favors
to pay for more government there.
I feel that.
Give that treatment to everyone else. Get the government out of my life too.
I feel you, man. You know what? I think you bring up an interesting point. I might, the next time I talk to a group of Democrat voters, and and I sometimes have the chance to. I might use Disney. I'm gonna research kind of more their founding and more their organizational structure.
Don't do that.
In the history of their corporate welfare, and I might
there's
use
a lot of conspiracy theories out there.
And I might give them like I might use them as an example of self-funding, paying for things. Like I might talk about that. You know,
Walt
like
Disney was a consummate anti-Semite racist dude. We've
come to learn, Marcus. We're all racist. I got called it 3 times this week. You 100%. Got called it twice. Yeah, you got called it twice. Yeah,
no, I mean, 2 to 3 times, 3 to 4 times a week, I get called a racist.
Yeah,
but Walt Disney was.
So you and Walt were like this, son.
Yeah, y'all are buddies, man.
I love my kids grew up on Disney, and neither one of them are freak shows.
Yeah.
So I don't see where everybody's saying Disney is grooming and all that stuff, because my daughter loves the what's that one Disney movie where they're set in Louisiana in the Bayou?
Princess and the Frog, man.
Yeah, my daughter loves that one.
So I'm from Shreveport, Louisiana. There's a line in that movie that is dear to my heart, because Shreveport, Louisiana is about 5 hours away from New Orleans. And there was kind of an inside joke that you couldn't be any further from New Orleans than living in Shreveport, right? And in that movie, the guy goes, "I'm from a far, far away from here." And that little lightning bug or whatever, he goes, "Go to bed. You from Shreveport?" And like that always, I was like, okay. I was like, y'all at least did a little homework, you know? Like, I mean,
I don't think I ever told you, my brother and sister went to Grambling.
Okay. Yeah. There you go,
man. Is Grambling in Shreveport?
Grambling is in Ruston, Louisiana. It is a HCSBU. How do I say it, Marcus?
Historically Black College.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they have so they're the week before Thanksgiving, there is the Southern Classic, the Bayou Classic is Southern Classic is a chicken restaurant. No puns intended there. There's a game called the Bayou Classic, which is Southern University, the Southern Jaguars, and Grambling Tigers. They play. Typically, it used to be in New Orleans. And when I tell you that it's like one of the hugest events, like
it's a mega event.
It literally is like Black Mardi Gras times 30, right? Yeah. It makes white people uncomfortable. I'll be honest. Like people
I can't blame them.
Yeah, they're like, we have to get out of the city, and we're going to have to shut down the T-shirt store this weekend, and the ruffians will be in town.
That's when they go to their vacation homes.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of businesses that close for maintenance during the Bayou Classic.
And they just happen to have guys with long rifles standing in front of them.
And somehow that maintenance requires like plywood on the windows and stuff. I don't know. Yeah.
So more police.
Yeah, so I didn't know that, Marcus. I had no idea, man. Your family went to Grambling. That's pretty cool.
Well, real quick, sure. I deployed to Guantanamo Bay with the 602nd Military Police Company, and they're out of Shreveport.
Okay, so
were you there with DeSantis?
I don't know when he was there, but I wouldn't know.
Okay.
So
he was a JAG officer. I never had to deal with them.
He's a JAG-off?
He's a jag-off. Yeah, he's a jag-off.
He's
a jag-officer.
Hey, jag-off.
Yeah, we just went Brooklyn on this real quick. I thought you were from down
the
south.
MP company you deployed with, were they no-goes? They National Guard guys? Is that where they were?
Reserves.
Okay, reserves. Were they from Fort Humbug? Is that where they were from? Or that was the Armory? Or
Fort Polk.
Fort Polk. That's okay. Yeah, okay. Fort Polk is actually, it's technically a little south. It's a little south of Shreveport.
Well, they were like their drill hall was in Shreveport.
I can see that.
Yeah.
The armories in
like
Shreveport.
Where they would do the drills or the training, I think was Fort.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. Yeah.
That was 2013. That was a long time ago.
That makes total sense. Yeah.
Was DeSantis thing Gitmo in 2013?
By the way, so this is a little off topic. How'd you like Gitmo?
I mean, the job sucked.
I heard they have one McDonald's. That's it.
Yep, one McDonald's.
How many McDonald's do you need in like a 4 square? Wasn't it like 4 square miles or something?
Yeah, but it's weird. So you got the side where like the detainee camps are, and that's the side we were on, and then you got the other side, the main base side, where like Navy admin. Like I was Army, but the Navy admin is all over there. Everybody's in Gitmo, so that's kind of the cool part. Is Coast Guard patrols the harbor. The Marines provide security for the on the Cuba side of the fence and really all of the fence. You know, we were Army doing the detainee operations. The Navy was doing medical, and the Air Force was doing like the construction and maintenance of the base. So like they called it Joint Task Force. Like everybody was there doing something.
It's kind of cool. Yeah, man.
Gitmo is like the weirdest thing as far as territory the United States holds.
It's so weird, man.
Yeah, I don't think people understand. This goes all the way back to the Spanish-American War.
It's a weird deal, man.
It is weird as hell that we have an army base in Cuba.
Yeah,
isn't it like an indefinite lease that we only had to pay like $100 for or something?
I'm sure. Look, the typical white man way of doing things is we find people with darker skin color than us, and then we exploit their land. So I'm sure we got it for a fucking steal. Like,
I like the way, and I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to say this. I like how the way you people were able.
What do you mean you?
I said I was going to say. We're able to parlay a base on basically a brown island
in a communist country,
a minefield, barbed wire, and all kinds of hazards around it, and tell the Cubans, "Go fuck yourself."
It's very Caucasian. It's a very Caucasian operation. Yeah,
but I think
that's that
Cold War, that was a death trap. Because,
we should. I think Marcus. You should point to that. You should point to Gitmo as white privilege. If someone ever says, "What's white privilege?" Say Gitmo.
How does that happen?
Yeah, and then historically, we've used it to lock up brown people, right? We did that all through the War on Terror. So
if you think about what it's being and been used for.
Yeah. Wow. There we go, man. I think we just solved some serious political and sociological issues with Gitmo right here in this conversation. Those are the kind of conversations you hear, folks, on the Black Powder Podcast.
Yes.
You're not going to get that on Fox News, people. Okay, it's just not going to happen. He said it's not privilege, it's power. There you go.
Look at this guy, and then this guy.
Yeah.
No, I'm not sure that's poop emoji. That's a Latino dude. I call him a coconut. Alfred, you're a coconut. He's a personal friend of mine.
Okay.
But brown on the outside, white on the inside. That's why I call him a coconut. He'll probably be at Stagecoach this weekend in the deserts of Southern California listening to country music, drinking Coors Light because Bud Light is gay.
Well, hey, look. I've been telling people drink local craft beer. That's what got me into politics.
Yep.
So I was saying that before that culture war also.
That's what I'm doing right now. This is from Lost 40 here in Little Rock, Arkansas. I'm a big local beer guy. Like, I think that if you can buy anything local, you should be doing so, obviously. Honey, food, whatever, get it, man. Can you talk about who we get to this libertarian? Okay.
I'm sorry. Before we get to this question, I need to ask your opinion on IPAs.
My opinion or Eric's?
Eric, you're not a... I know you're a local brew guy, but Eric's actually a brewer. Now, I
was never a brewer at the brewery. I was a beer tender, assistant manager, and outside sales. Just to get that clear, I have home brewed. And Marcus, I feel like you're attacking white people.
Well, good.
That's a common theme here, man. You got to have a little bit of self-loathing to come on the Black Powder Podcast.
I feel like I'm doing my job. To be honest with you.
I will say this. I think to enjoy an IPA, you got to start somewhere else. Tasting different craft beers and work your way up to enjoying an IPA.
Right.
Because it's an acquired taste. It really is. I hated them for the first year I started drinking craft beer. I started liking dark beer, stouts, porters.
That's racist, by the way.
What?
You like dark beer. You started liking dark beers recently.
We didn't come to it naturally. Yes, Marcus. Sorry, man.
But I'll use my wife for example here. She didn't like beer at all when we first met. She was a wine drinker.
Okay.
But she went from wine to ciders to reds, I think.
Lagers.
Kind of porter stouts or reds, ambers, then browns, then porter stouts, and like IPAs was the last thing. Right. But you gotta work yourself that way. Now me, I grew up as a redneck. I had probably tasted my first beer when I was 13.
Yep.
I was drinking, Natty
Light.
First
beer? Natty Light was your first beer. Mine was Old Milwaukee Best. That was my first beer that I ever had.
Mine was probably
9 years old.
Natty Light or Bud Light was probably my first beer, and that's my whole thing with this Bud Light drama. Dude, I haven't purchased Bud Light for myself since I was 16 years old.
Here is my solution. This is my solution for Budweiser right now, for Anheuser-Busch. If they're having trouble selling their Bud Light stock, okay, they just need to like kind of probably bribe some like cashiers at convenience stores around the country, because I guarantee you teenagers will drink the shit out of it. They don't care. It's like all you can buy is the rainbow can Bud Lights. Dude, every kegger in like the field will have rainbow. There you go, Schlitz malt liquor. There you go, man. Yeah. Yeah, dude, man. Man, them 40s were good back in the day too, man. That's what we used to call them skull fuckers, is what we called them back in the day.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Hey, bourbon guys, come on, geez. Yeah.
To Ted, what I've been drinking is everyone ever heard of Yellow Wolf, the white redneck rapper?
No. I don't listen to you people's music.
I have a little bit, yes. My wife sees some of his reels.
I bought this bottle of Creek Water years ago, and I'm finally drinking it. It's signed by him, but that's what I've been drinking. It is whiskey, not bourbon, and it's honestly, don't tell Yellow I said this, but it's not that good, so I got to
I'm more of a Scots guy myself.
But I tell you what, Yellow Wolf, if you're listening to this podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network, go ahead and send me and Marcus a bottle. We'll try it for you, and we'll give our opinion. You know, and I'm always opening new hoodies too. So if you want me to send me one, I'll get it. Okay, here we go. We go back to Libertarian Ladies question. This is a good one to wrap up on. Can you three talk about who would be the best Libertarian nominee for 2024? I'm assuming she means for president. Okay.
Yes.
And so you know, Eric, I'll start with you. I mean, I have several opinions. I can kind of talk about that, but you know, have you followed any of the guys? Are there any you like better than the other? We've had all of them on. There's a pretty wide host of talent. I mean, do you have any leanings yet? Kind of where are you with it?
People that I'm going to do my dream ticket. I got a couple of dream tickets here.
Cool.
This would never happen, but Ron Paul, Andrew Napolitano would be my dream ticket.
Okay. Right. Yeah.
Man, that will never happen. I don't even think they're probably both still registered Republicans. I don't know.
Yeah.
So let's talk about people that
never registered as a Republican. Interesting fact.
Yeah.
He's never been registered as a Republican? All right. So,
as of late, he wasn't registered as a Republican when he was more prominent on the media. He was not.
Okay.
So so you mentioned the media, and I think the importance for that is the fact that Ron Paul had a revolution and a base, and he's been in federal government. He's done some stuff. And then Andrew Napolitano was on Fox News, probably still is. That's the problem is we don't have all right, so we're getting better at it, but we usually don't have those libertarians that have national exposure. Right. And those two are principled libertarians that lean Republican when it's convenient, if you know what I mean.
And one thing good about Ron Paul, what I've liked about him as of late on the Liberty Report, is he does a good job of kind of staying out of the culture war stuff, right?
Yeah.
He does a good job of saying, look, you know, I know that these things get brought up emotionally, but like you're drowning in debt, your currency is failing, you're fighting wars all over the country, your government's spying on you, they're weaponizing agencies. We can get to the bathrooms and everything else after we handle this. Right.
Exactly.
And I've really respected that because he's never really strayed from that. You know, in 2008 and 2012, the abortion question came up and I loved his answer, which was, you know, he kind of gave the answer that he was kind of pro-life, but kind of anti-prohibition. And I've kind of taken that as my position, which is, you know, this is going to be a nationally dividing issue. It's always going to be. The consensus has to be we get the government out of it. And like, if you're a minister or a priest or a social worker or somebody else, your job is to make this not happen. It's not government's job. And I liked that. I thought that was a really good way to handle that.
Michael, the way you explained that right there, I wish I could articulate that point as well as you did. Because
little secret, I'm helping build a kind of a repository of libertarian policy. And we're hoping to put it together. This is kind of this is a little secret thing, but we're gonna hopefully what we want to do in the future is be able to have these sort of things for people to grab. So Eric is running, and you're gonna go to a thing, and you know that question's coming up. Here's 4 or 5 things you can talk about, and you can pick whichever one you want. You could say I'm this, but we will have those things, the facts for you, so you can be better at kind of narrowing down that base, narrowing down that argument. So.
All right.
That's why Michael is so sexy.
Yeah, I am.
I'm the Californian. You know how we get down. So yeah,
go ahead.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, of people that I think that are likely to file and run still in the Libertarian Party and are active in our circles, I would 2 out of these 3 running Larry Sharp, Spike Cohen, Justin Amash. However, you can mix whoever in those 3 agree that they want to do it, and like one would get chair and the next best would get vice chair. Like I know some people have said they I don't know the Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf, yeah.
No. But those 3 in some order of whoever is willing to like take a step back, because Spike was great as vice. I don't know that he'd do that again. Justin Amash probably wouldn't. And Larry might. I think Larry.
So if I had, I think you just kind of nailed who I would say. If I had to pick like the 3 or 4 in my head that I would consider libertarian elite, right? Like I would say that these people, you got Dave Smith, you got Spike, you got Justin Amash, and you got Larry Sharp, right? And every one of them I kind of view like almost like a video game character with different stats. Like, you know what I mean? Yep. Like every one of them. And like Spike is probably one of the wittiest off the cuff people that's in the world. Like he can take a turn of a phrase. Like I don't even know. Like they need to program an AI that writes tweets like he does, because like they're so good, you know?
Yeah.
And Larry Sharp is so good at just common sense ways of saying things. Like when he did the whole regulated like onions thing, I was like, that's the most brilliant shit I've ever heard. Yeah. And so of course you got Justin Amash with the congressional pedigree. So he has the resume to say, look, I've actually been to the halls of horror in DC and I've served my time. Right. And I think Dave is such a good way of bringing historical context to current arguments. You know, for a guy who's a comedian by trade, he gets very serious about these issues. And if you want to hear a really good summary of maybe, for instance, how we got involved in Ukraine, or, the genesis of this legislation that started from here, I honestly, he's one of the best to do it. So I'm with you, man. If any mix of those 4, I'd be like, there we go. And so we'll see how we go up toward convention. I have my favorites currently, but I'm not saying who they are right now. I'm not doing that. I'm not doing it. I'm reserving it. Who's your favorite?
All right, Marcus, go ahead.
So my first and foremost favorite would have to bring somebody back from the dead, and that would be George Carlin.
Okay.
That would be, without question, I would say George Carlin. All the rest of the people I'm about to say right now, I'm not ranking them in any particular order, but these are satisfactory choices to me. Lars Mapstead, Spike Cohen, Justin Amash, Spike Cohen, Mike Tremont, and possibly Michael White.
I'm not running, man. No,
I know you're not, but
we have that's
you're more than a co-host to me. You're like in my soul and spirit, because I don't. And I tell people all this time, I was like, if you need to know about this guy, watch his debate performance.
Well,
you eviscerated those fools. I mean, they were just like he completely destroyed them. Not with.
It was a lot of
sound bites.
It was
there was no sound bites. There were no grandiose.
So I'm going to interrupt you. I'm not going to get my head big over here, Marcus. I'm not getting my head big over here. We're going back. You mentioned 3 that have thrown their hat in that are actual real candidates right now, right?
Right.
Again, for everyone listening, Lars Mapstead, Chase Oliver, Mike Tremont. I have a very hard time right now picking a favorite. Okay,
I can't pick a favorite out of all of them.
They all have their strengths and weaknesses. Every single one of them. I will say this to anybody that's going to be attending LNC and making that decision for the party in 24. You're going to have to think very hard. There's not anybody that you can just immediately put off the table. Every single one of those guys brings really good stuff to the table.
Yes.
You got, Lars' success story is one that'll make you tear up. Like, he's one of the best.
I don't know it, but
hey, well, you need to let him. You need to go back and listen to our episode. We had him on here, and reach out to him. He'd love to tell you. He's super awesome guy and down to earth, but he knows how business works. He's been incredibly successful, and he's a genuine everyday man who's done some great things. You have Chase who really kind of bridges the gap between right and left in a lot of ways. Yeah, right. And I think that he brings that very well and very honestly. And then you have Mike Tremont, who has this kind of economic experience so it's kind of like just like what we said with kind of the fictional characters who aren't going to run, like Larry Sharp and Spike and Dave Smith and those guys. We said, hey, they all have their thing. They all have their thing too. So LNC 24, man, those voting delegates have their work cut out for them. They really do. They do. Yeah.
And I'm not willing to rank any of those 3 guys that have already filed. I will say this. I like them all.
Yep.
Mike Termat used to be a Floridian. He ran for Congress here. And, like, I got pushback from a lot of people on Twitter, or not a lot of people, some guy, I don't know. But I was like, he's electable. And then they showed, like, Mike Termat's percentage. I was like, first off, Mike Termat ran in a race that's like 80% Democrat.
Yeah.
And there was a Republican, a Democrat, and 3 third parties, like 2 independents or NPAs and Mike Termat. And, you know,
you're going to judge a candidate based off what? Because if you were to do that, if you were to judge a candidate off percentage, Chase didn't like. If you just showed someone who was not educated about the story, and you said, "Hey, look, Chase didn't have some insane percentage, right? His percentage was just enough to cause that runoff. That's what it was.
And that's media, and
that's all we needed, and that's what he was there to do, and he did that job well. He made us.
He was the perfect guy for in Georgia.
Yeah,
he living in Atlanta to run for that seat. Yeah, and you know, I wish Herschel Walker would have showed up to the debates, but like with Mike Termat's, I think all that was for Congress. He needed experience running a federal campaign. He had to do all the same thing, the FEC filings and this, that, and the other. That's all that was. I think Mike Termat knew, I want to run for president. Yep. And I need some experience to do that.
He came to our convention here in Arkansas. He gave a very compelling speech. If you show up in my life, that means a lot to me, right?
Yes.
If you show up in my life, that means a lot to me. If you make it down here to, flyover country in Arkansas, and you're willing to travel here and shake hands and break bread, I'm like, dude, that's a big thing. So he's definitely got my respect. But again, nobody needs to sleep on Lars. Lars is the more I talk to Lars, the more I like that man. Like every time I liked him from the second I met him, and every time I have a conversation with him, I'm like, I really fucking like this dude.
Like, do you know why though? Do you know why?
Why?
Because he's from California, like me.
He's just cool like that. Most people I know from California suck, man. I think it's just you and Lars are probably the only cool people that I've known.
I would tend to agree with you on that.
But
other than you and Lars, I don't know that I know anyone from California.
I don't really know anyone.
Well, if you ever make your way out to free Disneyland out here in Southern California,
does Disneyland have its own power plant or only Disney World?
Actually, it does. Yeah, because I don't think people understand the engineering behind those rides, but that takes a lot of power.
Man, what if Disney is the libertarian example?
Libertarian utopia.
We need to spin that because you know how like the left tries to say there's never been a good example of a libertarian society.
Nailed it. Yeah, I'm gonna be like fucking Disney, lady. And they're like, what? I'm like, did you know?
And then they'd be like, and the Republicans tried messing that up.
And they did, and that's why you need to vote for me. We are coming up on an hour. We're wrapping up here. We're not on a strict timeline, but FRN likes us to keep our episodes around an hour long. So we're coming up on that.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, now I'll give it up to Chase because he came to Jacksonville for our gold standard rally.
Yeah.
And so because we mentioned the other 2 that have filed. And that's my point with Chase is the dude's hustling. And you're right. He bridges that gap left to right libertarian. He's saying all the right things. He got the Libertarian Party good media attention.
Yeah, and you can't.
Just like you did, Michael, in those debates. I watched any of the debates. You, Chase, I liked Shane Hazel. You know what I mean? Like, y'all held it down in those debates. So, congratulations.
We have to take those opportunities, whatever they are. We don't get many of them as a party. So, originally when I was going to run, this is not a Michael White podcast, but when I was going to run, originally I was going to run for a state office. And I was at convention and I was talking to our party chair and we had we had been like drinking and hanging out. And like, I'm the kind of guy that I don't drink a lot, but when I drink, sometimes I like to smoke cigarettes. Okay. I'm just going to be honest. All right. And the party chair smokes cigarettes. I'm like, dude, you need to give me one of those. Like that looks good. So we went outside on the patio and I was smoking a cigarette and he goes, hey, I know you want to file for a state office. He said, we really would like you to run in a federal race because I think you do well in the debate.
Yeah.
So I went home that night a little bit woozy headed with my wife. Took an Uber home, and we got home. And the next morning, I woke up and came back to convention. And I had kind of thought about it all morning and was like, well, I could probably, if I did a really good job, win this state race, right? Now, I say that in hindsight, I probably couldn't have, right? But that's what I was thinking. But I kind of said, okay, but this guy who has done all this footwork to make this party a thing, he basically had an ask, right? And I think that it's important to do the things sometimes you're asked by people who've done the work before you. And and I'm glad I did, and I'm grateful I did. And I think that's what Chase did is he put there was an ask from the party that said, help us get some national attention. And this man stood up and he got that.
Yeah.
For us. And he did it with class and style, and he has continued that through. So, like I said, man, LNC 24 is going to have a very difficult time picking a presidential candidate. It'll be a debate for the ages, and there's going to be a lot of people who are voting delegates who are, pray hard, people, because it's going to be a tough choice. It's not going to be we're just disregarding this person. I think it's going to be very difficult. So again, we're coming up on an hour here on the Firearms Radio Network, Black Powder Podcast. My name is Michael White. As always, joined by my melanated brother in arms, Mr. Marcus Matthews. It has been an honor, a privilege, and pleasure to spend this hour with you. And of course, Eric Parker, our guest tonight, Mr. Bold Liberty himself.
Bold Liberty, yes,
from Jacksonville, ran down there, killed it in the vote. This has been an amazing episode. Eric, thank you so much for joining us tonight. When we leave this podcast, we always leave it with a special saying, okay? We always leave it with live free or die. Would you like to join us in that?
You'll do it on three.
Three? Yeah. Yeah.
Ready? 3, 2, 1.
Live free or die. There we go. Yes. Y'all take us off air, Marcus. Thank you so much for tuning in, everyone.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Yep. Click it.